I got the idea for Meet 15 Interesting People from an article I read about a street photographer in Seattle. This started out as a Meet 100 Interesting People, but as I moved along I realized it might just take me a complete lifetime to complete that, so I reduced it to Meet 25 Interesting People. And I was thinking about it a bit more, and I thought you might actually get a little bored listening to me for that long, so I arrived at the number 15. There are rules around this project. I had to introduce myself and ask permission. Additionally, I had to learn something about the person or persons. If I couldn't get all three, I wouldn't take the picture. I also did not want this to be a Meet 15 homeless people, so I endeavored to get a good mix of street buskers and street people. So please enjoy Meet 15 Interesting People. Meet Bruce the banjo player. Bruce came to Toronto from Ottawa. He makes most of his living from busking with the guitar and banjo, and he pointed out to me that the banjo is originally from Somalia, and it is called the Ngoni. Bruce mainly plays gospel, country, and blues, and he volunteers his time at an outreach shelter, playing music and generally helping out. Big's influence is Johnny Cash, which by looking at him is not a big surprise. Longing to hold you again, I'm caught in your shadow. I'm losing. This is Peter the philosopher. Peter came from Kingston as a young man to get lost in the masses, as he put it. He's a big reader with quantum physics or the Dalai Lama listed as his favorite readings. This really quite surprised me, as unfortunately I judged this book by its cover. He purchased the frame of the bike you see for $40. He was very proud of it and has been slowly modifying it over time. He talked a lot about enjoying the small details in everything, miniature train sets, watching the people go by. He was very approachable, pleasant, and quite interesting with his views on life. Meet Daryl with the great beard. Daryl has worked on and off as a chef. He's originally from Niagara Falls, and he's worked at the Skyline and the Constellation hotels. At 42 years old, he's not constantly on the street, but he would not elaborate on what ended his employment. Getting his picture was kind of a funny tale. It started with the usual spiel. I know I look like a bum off the street, but... So I stopped him right there and said, look, I'll give you $5. You let me take your picture with a background story. He thought about it for a second. He thought it was a pretty good deal for him, and I thought it was pretty fair for me. We ran into Kriyev here at a truck stop on the way up to Algonquin Park, where we were going to go shoot some fall pictures. Kriyev is 26 years old and he's a little bit of a hippie. He enjoys just traveling around. He says he's recording an album, a sort of rock and grunge jazz album. The band name is The Spooks of Hazard. His hometown is Thunder Bay. Right now he's trying to get to Ottawa by hitching a ride. He's like a lot of young nomads. He plants trees for money. He looks like he's pretty set up. He's got his backpack with his tent, so I think he's going to make it okay. This is Jamoy, and Jamoy was actually my first interview. And after talking to him, I knew I was kind of on to something. He's 25 years old and he's trying to come up with an idea to start a business. I met him at the food court at the Eaton Center where he was discussing some ideas with a buddy. He has a very moving story that a short time ago he had a viral infection which put him into a coma for 2 months. And due to the infection he also lost his left leg. He caught my eye with his pleasant nature and positive outlook, which can be seen without even talking to him. I'm sure he's going to be successful. There's a land that I dreamed of. I nicknamed Dustin here Canadian Idol because I met him at Zach Warner's Idol School booth down at Busker Fest last year. From the picture, you should be able to see that he's kind of a star in the making anyway. He was swinging his hair around and jumping up and down. He was playing some pretty cool guitar licks too. He was very exciting to watch. Dustin's 19 and he's into his music, having his own recording studio at home, so he's pretty vested into that. He's also done an interview with CBC's Cover Me Canada, which is kind of a reality show for music stars.
Upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me.
Meet Michelle in Popcorn. Michelle is 50 years old and has 3 kids. Her story is her husband left her behind with the kids without enough money to pay for anything. Eventually she had to move out to the street, and it sounds like the kids were taken away. She's starting to get her life back together now. She has a place to live and is working through her ailments, as she's got a lot of chronic pain, which is kind of common with a lot of people that stay on the street a long time. Her statement, "We are all just 2 paychecks away from where she is a haunting reminder not to take anything for granted.
And oh, why can't
This is Jeff the Poet. I was shooting some skating rink shots when I spotted him outside of City Hall and asked him if it would be okay to take his picture. He was very accommodating, and he shared that he had been at the Occupy Toronto protest for the past couple of weeks now. From his experience there, he had started to write some poetry in words of wisdom, and he pulled out about 100 pages of the stuff, and it was all over the place. All seemed to be peaceful. He then pulled out a guitar, which he just picked up the other day, and started to play it, and he was playing that pretty well too. So, it was a pretty interesting conversation, but after talking to him, my friend and I commented that there's definitely seemed to be a lot more going on with him than met the eye, and it was either good or bad. We weren't really sure.
I didn't give to you, old friend, why are you so shy?
This is Jim. Jim is the one person I feel I really need to look in on. He's been at the same corner for about 2.5 years, and he's always been really pleasant and really nice to talk to. He told me recently that he's been off meth for about 27 weeks, which was a real breakthrough for him. You could see how proud he was. He was really accommodating and even eager for me to take his picture, and I really wanted to do it justice, just to give him the dignity he deserves. I think his smile says it all. This is Mike from Barrie. To look at Mike, I couldn't figure out why he was out there on the street. I mean, he had a cell phone, he looked like he was a normal guy. So I went up to him and said, listen, what was the story? So what he told me was that he had actually come into Toronto to drop off an application to George Brown College for social working. Then he missed the bus home. So he ended up in a shelter where, of course, all his belongings were stolen. So now he's trying to make enough money for a bus ride home. And if he didn't get the bus by 2 o'clock, there was no bus until Monday again, at which point he would have had to stay out on the street, right? Because he had no money. I wasn't, I mean, he might have been lying to me, but his comments were kind of heartfelt. And, he said he realized how this situation can escalate and snowball for him. So basically, I said to him, what do you really need? It was a ticket back home. And he did say, yeah, that's what I need. So I went and bought him a ticket back home, and he took the ticket. So I hope he made it back home, and I hope he wasn't just fibbing to me.
My face, and that you'd be reminded that for me, it isn't over.
Meet Fred the pensioner. Fred is a 65-year-old pensioner that sells the Outlook paper to make a few extra dollars for the odd cup of coffee. So in a moment where I thought I was going to help him with a $1 donation, he turned around and he actually helped me with a simple statement that I had made his day. By just stopping to talk to him and with a small helping hand, he made me feel like $1 million. Thanks, Fred.
It hurts instead. Nothing compares, no worries or cares, regrets and mistakes, their memories made.
This is 22-year-old Daryl. Daryl has been living on the street since 2007. He comes here from Brandon, Manitoba, and I guess when he was 11 he lost his mom and dad in a fire. He became a ward of the CAS and stayed there till he turned 18. He left and he came here. But now he finds himself in that cycle where he doesn't have an address or a phone, so he really can't get a job because he has nowhere to get his mail. As well, it's difficult to look presentable for an interview without any decent clothes. He lives in an internet cafe for $12 a night and says he's been looking for work for a long time, putting out resumes online and giving an email address as a return. For me, he looks like he really needs help now because he could get down that path of becoming depressed and becoming a chronic street person.
Don't forget me, I think I remember.
Meet Sharon the artist. Sharon is 69 years old and has been selling art on the street for about the last 7 years. She asks for a modest $10, and anyone purchasing the art isn't really doing it for its face value, but for the fact that she has made it, that she lives on the street trying to sell it, and how much she believes in it. She believes in God and suggests that by reading the good book, she gets many of her opinions on politics and life on the street. She says that living in shelters is way too dangerous, and somehow she's found a way to survive. The city is trying to treat her as a vendor for selling her art and has been after her to get a license. Sharon quips, "It's okay for the big corporations to give away beer and chocolate and newspapers on the street, but they want to harass an old woman who's just trying to get by." Meet the violin players Vlad and Vedran. Vlad and Vedran met in Serbia about 20 years ago and they became really good friends. Then they started studying in Vienna when they had the idea to come to Canada to study their music at the Royal Conservatory of Music. Alex is 27 and Vedran is 30. Alex is the one on the left and Vedran is the one on the right. They both have children and they play on the street just to make a little bit of extra money. They both want to become professional musicians, so I really wish them the best of luck.
When the evening shadows and the stars appear, and there is no one there.
This is the most recognizable person that I interviewed. This is Zach Warner, and you might remember him from the Canadian Idol days as the mean judge. He was down at Busker Fest last year, and he is starting a school called Idol School. And the idea is to take young talent and help them have a music career. It was a great little interview. He's a lot of fun, very nice. And, you know, he was playing music there for about a half an hour, and he's really pretty good. So, yeah, I had a lot of fun with that interview.
From the moment that we met, no doubt in my
The last of our Meet 15 Interesting People interviews is James. James is a bagpiper. He's 34 and he started playing the bagpipes when he was 16 in the Air Cadets. He grew up in Sudbury and he's since married and moved to Toronto. He's a stay-at-home dad, and when he has somebody to help him look after the kids, he comes downtown and he can practice his bagpipes and make a little bit of extra money. He says he just makes enough money to buy his wife flowers once in a while. He was a very nice guy and he let me take our pictures together. That brings our presentation, Meet 15 Interesting People, to an end. I hope you liked the show. The music I used was Afterglow by INXS, Somewhere Over the Rainbow by Glee, Make You Feel My Love by Adele, and Someone Like You by Adele. Thanks for watching.
the storms